So when it comes to metalcore and metal in general, I think that most of us kind of drift towards the riff. That's kind of what we get excited about. And I know that I do. Like, that's generally what I listen to. That's what I try to play. That's what I try to write. That's kind of what my main focus is when it comes to metal and playing guitar. But sometimes it's necessary to slow it down and play maybe some, like, you know, slower chord progressions and some a little bit softer, or maybe even incorporate some chords into your riffing. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how to build chords and how to find chord progressions that sound good to you. So probably 5 years ago, me and my family went out to eat. We went to a restaurant, like a Mexican restaurant, and we walked in and the place looked huge. There was people everywhere. There was tables everywhere. It was just a ginormous restaurant. From the outside, it looked really small. So I was very confused. And then I realized that, like, the people on this side of the restaurant, they looked exactly the same as the people on the other side of the restaurant. And I realized, like, one wall was filled with mirrors. So the place felt big and it looked big, but it was actually very small. And that's kind of what the fretboard's like. If you don't understand the layout and you don't understand, like, how the strings kind of relate to each other, and theoretically how the fretboard is set up and kind of how it works. So that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to really explain, like, the ideas of the fretboard and how to understand that. But I am going to give you guys some two different ways that you can come up with chords and find chords that sound good to you and build chord progressions and just, you know, create chord progressions on the spot without understanding the fretboard, without understanding theory, and without learning a bunch of chords and how chords work. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is I am going to give you 3 chord names, specific chords that you can use that sound good together when it comes to metal and metalcore and sound melodic. But we're going to base this off of the power chords. So I am in drop tuning. You can play these in standard tuning, or you can play them off of the A string as well, but you just have to shift the first finger over so that the first finger's playing 2 frets away from your second finger. But if we're in drop tuning, if you guys don't know much about power chords, basically it's, you know, the first finger is going to play the root, and then the second note that you play is going to be the 5th of the scale, which makes it what is considered like a two-note chord, which is a power chord. And when you're in drop tuning, those are stacked up on top of each other, so you just have to bar those 2 notes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play that power chord, but we're going to start adding notes onto this 4th string. So if we're 4 frets away, and I use my pinky for this, if we're 4 frets away with your pinky, 4 frets away from whatever, you know, you're playing that power chord off of, that would be considered a major chord. Shift it over 1 fret, now you're only 3 frets away, that's a minor chord. And now shift it over 2 frets, and that's what is considered a sus2. Technically, I believe it's sus2. Some people call it add 9, but I think theoretically, what I've been taught and read, it would be considered a sus2. But if you guys have a different opinion on that, or you want to explain yourself on why I'm wrong, that's totally fine. I want to hear what you have to say, so leave a comment about it. I'd love to hear about it. So basically, just take this idea and just combine those 3 chords in different ways. You know, you can play them wherever you want on the fretboard. And just combine those chords and just kind of find ideas and progressions based off of those 3 chords that sound good to you. And when I do it, I like the sound of, like, minor styles music and minor style riffs and chord progression. So that's kind of what mine generally are based off of, is like the minor scale. But just kind of play around with it and see what combinations of those chords you can come up with that sound good to you. So the second way, you're going to have to memorize a few notes. You're going to have to memorize all the half-step intervals on the that is in the minor scale. And the minor scale based off of this open low string as the root note. And I'll just have a picture on the screen. You guys can take a screenshot of that and go learn it. I'm not going to show you every single half step right now, but you guys can learn that. And it's not very much to learn. And the reason why I'm just going to have you learn those half-step intervals is because anything other than the half-step intervals, in between those half-step intervals, it's going to be a whole step. It's going to be 2 frets apart. So if you know it's not one of these half-steps that you've memorized, then you know it's a whole step and it's 2 frets apart. So you can take all of those notes and you can just combine them however you want to combine them. And just come up with your own chord progressions that way, making combinations of any of those notes in that minor scale that you want, and just try to find like good chords that sound cool to you, that ones that you like the sound of. And just mess around that way and come up with chord progressions like that. If you come up with one and you like the sound of it, remember it, then find another one and then combine those two and start making chord progressions that sound good to you. So if you guys are new to guitar, you're struggling with what to practice, or you've been playing for a while and you just don't understand what you should be focusing on what to practice, or how much theory you need to learn, or if you need to learn any theory at all, any of that stuff, I have a 6-week course basically teaching you everything that I think is important to learn and to focus on in order to create an effective practice routine and continue to see progression when playing metal guitar. And you guys can access that with the link below. I have the link. You guys can check it out if you want.